So your father, again, was 4.5 when he came? 3.5?
Between 3 and 4.
Okay.
Kathy Burns, Sue Broadbooks, and Kay Harris, all the descendants of orphan train riders, are talking family history amongst themselves as they prepare to enter the Orphan Train Complex Museum.
This is our 22nd annual celebration of orphan train riders.
Every year, the National Orphan Train Complex celebrates the orphans who rode those trains nearly a century or more ago. The Orphan Train Riders Museum has been a part of Concordia since 2002, but this complex didn't open until 2007.
We used to call it a reunion early on because there were still orphan train riders who were alive and were able to travel and come and share their stories. And most all of them have passed.
Most have passed, Phillips says, because the last orphan train left New York City in 1929, which means the riders would have been born before then.
But we have descendants who like to come now, so we call it a celebration. And they share the story of their riders. And it's a way for them to have validation on their history. They don't sometimes know a lot about their history. They don't know why their rider became an orphan train rider. They don't know what happened to their birth family. Sometimes they don't even know the names of the birth family.
They weren't called orphan trains at first. That name came later and stuck. Early on, they were sometimes known as mercy trains. They emerged in response to a growing crisis, an epidemic of poverty, overcrowding, and orphan children in cities like New York and Boston.
Well, back about in the 1850s, New York was growing tremendously. There was a great deal of immigration.
Unbridled immigration in the early and mid-1800s quickly overwhelmed cities.
And so millions of people were coming. They were mostly all landing in New York, and of course quickly overcame the infrastructure. No housing, no jobs, no food.
And those conditions led to disease.
Tuberculosis was rampant.
With so many families falling apart, many children wound up sleeping in the streets and alleys.
The boys especially were forming gangs to protect each other. So they would pick pockets, they would steal from the vendors. If they could find a way to make a living, such as selling newspapers.
Charles Loring Brace, a young seminary student, saw the crisis while studying in New York. He was moved by the suffering of thousands of abandoned children on the streets. That led him to help form the Children's Aid Society, which launched the orphan train movement. Brace established industrial schools to teach and train children to give them life skills. He opened orphanages to shelter the children, but there were never enough beds to house the thousands of orphans living on the streets.
As soon as they were built, they were overflowing. And so they were addressing the need, but they certainly were not taking care of the entire problem.
Minister Brace had the idea to remove the children from the city and send them to farm families in the Midwest. He believed they would have a healthier, more stable upbringing there. The first train left New York in 1854 to Michigan.
So then they would put up handbills, they would put advertisements in the newspapers.
Newspaper ads like this one for the Lyons, Kansas Daily News simply announced homeless children from the East will arrive in Lyons Friday, January 19th, 1912. This ad announcing a train of homeless children coming to McPherson, saying Protestant children will be placed in Protestant homes and Catholic children in Catholic homes.
Kansas was one of the top 10 states that got children.
Why is that?
Because we got the railroad earlier than the West Coast, so we got more than the western states did.
She says Kansas also got more orphans sent here on the trains than many other states because of the state's rural farm setting.
There were over 7,000 just from the Children's Aid Society alone. The New York Foundling Home sent several thousand. And then there were other organizations that also sent children here. So, and they were smaller. So we figured 12,000.
Kansas newspaper editors didn't always sound a welcoming tune of the orphan trains coming here. This July 31st, 1897 Topeka State Journal's headline says, "An ash heap, Kansas is made one for the dumping of waifs which New York won't take care of," stating a batch of these New York boys to be unloaded on unsuspecting Kansas greenhorns. The Marion Record of March 23, 1911 was more positive, saying Children's Aid Society places a number of fine children in Marion County homes. And this from the Council Grove Republican newspaper of July 9, 1897. A company of boys, 10 to 16 years of age, from the Farm School of the Children's Aid Society of New York will arrive in Council Grove Friday, July 23rd, to find homes among the citizens of Morris County. These children are mostly orphans who have been thrown upon the world and the society, which is supported by charitable contributions, asks the citizens of this community to aid in finding them homes where they may be properly trained and educated so that they may become useful citizens. Minister Brace believed the children had a better chance at life in these Midwest rural settings.
They liked the smaller communities because that way the people that were on their local committees, they knew more people, and they could watch out for these children after the agent had left. And when it was a bigger community, they lost the kids. They couldn't keep track of them. So they liked these smaller Kansas rural communities.
And that brings us back to Sisters Sue Broadbooks and Kathy Burns, both of Des Moines, Iowa. They are here hoping to learn more about their grandfather, who rode the train from New York City to Iowa, and to learn about their great-grandmother who gave up her baby.
Women faced so much poverty and discrimination in New York in the 1800s that when Sue and I think about our grandmother bringing our great-grandmother bringing our grandfather to relinquish him to the New York Foundling Home when he was 3.5 months old. And you have to think he was old enough that she had to have tried and hoped she could keep him. But we don't really know.
And that not knowing keeps them coming to Concordia to see if there are things they can find out that will bring them to a better understanding about their orphan train riding grandfather.
The more people we meet, the more we learn that these people were, the ones who did survive, were the ultimate survivors.
Their grandfather was dropped off at the New York Foundling Home, which later also included a pediatric hospital. It was established in 1869 by the Sisters of Charity. The Foundling Home focused on protecting and placing Catholic children in Catholic homes across the country. A desperate mother giving up her son with this note, "Take care of Johnny, for God's sake. I cannot." So typical of that time. Sisters Burns and Broadbooks are writing a book about their grandfather's experience.
When we're trying to write a book about it, it's filling in those gaps. It's fun, but it's really, you feel so obliged to tell the story in a truthful way, but you don't have all the facts.
Kay Harris of Richland Hills, Texas, comes here because of her orphan train riding father.
No, I just love coming here. Makes me feel closer to my father. I love to see the artifacts that they have. I've never gotten any clothing that he wore or any baby pictures.
The only photo of her father's youth, she says, was when he was 18, when her father was going into military service for World War I. She says her father, Leo Mullen, was adopted into a great family in Dinsmore, Kansas, in Norton County.
He came from New York. He was born in Manhattan, taken to the New York Foundling Home when he was 10 days old, and his mother left him there.
For decades, folks in Concordia were told that the orphan trains never even came here. But they found out in recent years that's not the case.
We didn't believe that we had gotten orphan trains here. We had no knowledge of any.
In recent years, they discovered that 3 orphan trains had stopped here.
For example, when Concordia got its 3 orphan trains, the people around here knew that a train was coming. It was advertised in the paper. There would have been visits by the agent. There would be a local placing committee to help say, yes, that would be a good family to take a child, or to say, nah, I think maybe that guy's probably not gonna get a kid.
The orphan trains had critics then and now.
We have some people that come in here and they say, oh, it was nothing but child slavery, child slavery. It was not child slavery. Every child had to work back then.
Some child placements didn't work out, and attempts were made to place those children in other homes. So from 1854 to 1929, more than 200,000 children were relocated on orphan trains, each child with a story, and each family that took them in with one of their own. It's in search of those stories that orphan train descendants return to this celebration in Concordia year after year. This is Chris Frank reporting for Positively Kansas.